been reading some spiritual and self-improvement books, which we would love to share with you guys. Self-improvement books can either be a hit or miss for me. Sometimes I just don't connect with them at all, or I zone out and I start thinking about something else. But this one book I read recently, I was so hooked. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and I absolutely love this book. This book sort of looks beyond the surface level things in life and focuses more on the energy and soul. And I think that this focus on the energy is sort of what sets the book apart, because a lot of the books I've read, they focus on things that you can do to elevate your life, but they're all very surface level and they may work temporarily, but I've noticed that they haven't had an impact on my life long term. And the essence of this book is that if you're closed off and if your vibration is low, no matter what you do, you'll always lack something. And even though you're reaching your goals or milestones, there will be a sense of feeling of lacking. There are two chapters that really stood out to me in this book. One was on infinite energy and the other one is on the path to unconditional happiness. The chapter on infinite energy was really eye-opening because it differentiated between inner and external energy. It kind of talked about how the things we do to satisfy our external energy will not necessarily work for our inner energy because they are two very separate things. This book gave the example that if you're in a bad mood, eating won't necessarily fix that because your inner energy comes from inside of you. So the only way to really work with that is by focusing on what's going on with you internally in terms of your soul. Now, if you're in a bad mood because you're hungry and you're feeling hangry, that's a totally separate issue. But in this case, when we're talking about bad mood, it just means generally feeling cranky, and you can't really pinpoint why you're in a bad mood. I've also noticed this with myself, that if I'm feeling kind of low or I'm in a bad state of mind, I'll talk to my friends or my family about traveling, for example, and that will instantly or automatically cheer me up. And you can literally see my face glow up because that is something that really feeds my soul. The other chapter, which is called The Path to Unconditional Happiness, is more towards the end of the book. And that I feel like really encapsulates and summarizes or kind of just gets the entire essence of the book in one chapter. I remember when I was reading that chapter, every sentence I read kind of felt like pure gold. And I also called up RIDDHI and I kind of read out the entire chapter to her because I was like, wow, this is amazing. You need to read this book. There was this one paragraph that really stood out to me in this book, and I'll just read it out to you guys. The key to staying happy is really very simple. Begin by understanding your inner energies. If you look inside, you will see what happens when you're happy. Your heart feels open and the energy rushes up inside of you. When you aren't happy, your heart feels closed and no energy comes up inside. So to stay happy, just don't close your heart, no matter what happens. So in this paragraph, I think what they really do is kind of redefine happiness. I feel like these days, the definition of happiness is not necessarily in line with what happiness truly means. So for example, happiness doesn't necessarily mean always being bubbly or over the top energetic. You can be solemn and be happy at the same time, because happiness is more about having an open heart. This chapter also talks about how happiness needs to be unconditional, because there will be things that happen in your life, and if you add conditions to your happiness, such as I'll be happy if I continue doing well in my job, or I'll be happy if I get this one bag that I've really wanted for months, then your happiness is kind of in control of external situations that you have no control over. But at the same time, we say that happiness is something that comes from inside of you. So why are we letting external things decide what our happiness is? Another thing that I really liked about this book is that they make references to Eastern cultures that preach happiness from a different perspective. So I remember while I was reading this book, I was like, wait, I think this is something my parents have told me, or like I've heard from my culture. And then I continued reading, and I was very happy to see that the author gave credit to Eastern cultures, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and just different traditions that practice this already, because a lot of times these new concepts that we read, they've already existed and they're already a huge part of Eastern traditions, but they're not given their due credit. I think the fact that this author acknowledges that this is already something that's been in practice in other cultures is something I really appreciate. If you're someone who's interested in knowing how to really elevate yourself internally, I think run, don't walk, like get this book.
So I recently finished reading The Astonishing Power of Emotions by Abraham Hicks. If you are not familiar with Abraham Hicks, I am a huge fan of their teachings. I listen to their lectures a lot, watch their YouTube videos. So I was really excited to read this book. I actually haven't read any of the other books by them. This is the first one that I'm reading. So I was excited to see how that would turn out. I don't have the book physically with me right now, but basically the first maybe quarter of the book is just an overview of their teachings, an overview of the main topics that they continue to address throughout their books and throughout their lectures. And then the majority of the rest of the book are examples of situations where you can realistically apply their teachings. So a lot of these teachings are to do with your thoughts and how you can change them to move from upstream to downstream. So what that basically means is, imagine you are rowing a boat through a river or through a stream in this case, and it's a lot harder to paddle upstream. And if you're going downstream, it's so much easier to just, you know, relax and feel easy and natural and just float down the river downstream. So according to Abraham Hicks, all your desires, everything you want, all those good emotions are at the end of the river downstream. So in order to get there, if you're paddling upstream, it's not gonna be effective at getting you to your desires and where you eventually want to be. So according to the book and its teachings, to change the direction that you're moving in, whether it's upstream or downstream, you basically have to change your thoughts, and by doing so, changing your emotions. Hence the name of the book, The Power of Emotions. The Astonishing Power of Emotions. So through the majority of this book, Abraham Hicks is using examples from real-world situations, such as, I'm a teenager, my parents don't understand me, or my kids are always fighting with each other. Examples such as this that a lot of real-world people encounter, and they give solutions on how to switch your thoughts from what you're feeling in the moment and how it's affecting your emotions negatively, and change them to be more downstream and be more positive or neutral at least, so you feel better about the situation and thus heal the situation and heal how you feel around it. But yeah, overall I love the book. I think it was very real world applicable. The only thing I wish was a little different was that first quarter of the book where they're giving an overview of this entire concept and introducing these concepts to us. And they go into a little bit more detail in their other books, so I'll definitely check those out as well. But the examples, though they were helpful, they did take up majority of the book, and sometimes not all the situations applied to me or applies to everyone, so I ended up skipping through a lot of them that I felt like I couldn't relate to in my life, especially ones that were to do with parenting or young kids. I couldn't really relate to at this stage in my life. So although I tried to get the teachings out of it still, I did end up skimming through a lot of it, but I'm still glad they included all these examples, and I think they provide so much more benefit and so much more clarity around how to use these concepts in a real life setting, because a lot of these spiritual oriented books and the ones that are talking about the laws of the universe really don't always talk about how to apply them in our modern society. Sometimes they can seem a little too high level or too like woo-woo. So I'm glad that they did include these examples and they did make an effort to apply it to our real world society. So I definitely recommend this book if you're looking for more practical ways to change your thoughts and then change your emotions, and by doing so, get closer to your manifestations or get closer to the life you want to live. We'll link the book down in the description box below. Again, it's called The Astonishing Power of Emotions by Abraham Hicks, and I can't wait to read more of their books. I think they have some more like introductory books to like about the concepts, but I'm pretty familiar with these concepts and with their teachings already. So I just skipped straight to this book, which I thought would be most relevant to me. But feel free to check out their earlier works that give more of an overview of their teachings, just if you're new to this sort of stuff, or if you're new to the things they talk about. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this video. We love talking about our recommendations and things we're reading. So let us know if you took anything away from it, or if there's anything else you would like to see us cover next time. Bye!